If you aspire to greatness, look around you at those who are doing what you do 5, 10, 20 years later. Do they have what you dream of achieving? I'll say that again. If you aspire to greatness, look around you at those who are doing what you do 5, 10, 20 years later. Do they have what you dream of achieving? Well, today's topic is basically exactly what it is. It doesn't matter if you're in a job, in a job, or if you're self-employed, you run a business. Have you looked at other people that have been doing it 5, 10, 20 years longer than you? Do they have what you want to achieve? Do they have your dreams? Do they have the things that you hope to accomplish by being at that job, being self-employed, owning that business? Think about it. So here's what I mean. I have clients that own a business. They're entrepreneurs. They have some staff, and they aspire and dream to have more of those locations, yet they can barely control what they have. They barely make a paycheck for themselves. They hardly ever go on holidays, and they're stuck in a rut. And opening up another location isn't even a reality because they've never really thought about people that are doing that same type of work. And those people that are doing that same type of work or have that same type of business, they've made a moderate living. They haven't starved to death, but they aren't, going on the dream vacations. They aren't owning the homes that they always spoke about wanting, the boats, the fancy cars. And I'm not saying that you need all those things. I'm saying if that's what you aspire to want, you need to look at other people that are doing the exact same thing or are already in play of doing that 5, 10, 20 years out. So they've been in business or at a job or a career for 10 years. You're just starting out and you have these lofty goals and these aspirations of wanting to have all these materialistic things or these big trips, and yet that person that's been doing it longer than 5, 10, again 20 years later has not aspired to get that. Does that mean you can't? No, it doesn't mean that. It means that maybe they may not be the best at their career, or they may not be the best business owner, but it is a gauge for you to look at. So you start looking at somebody that's doing what you are currently doing. Look at one person, then expand that. In other words, go out and do the research and ask yourself, I've been doing it now for 5 years myself. Somebody that's been doing it 10 years is still struggling to make their bills, and they're not getting the things that I want. So if they're not getting the things that they want and you believe them to be a decent business person or decent in their career, honestly, you have to ask yourself, what makes me think that I can aspire to get that just because I do this another 5, 10, 20 years? So sometimes it's a check and balance, what I'm trying to teach you to think about and what I'm trying to tell you to go out and educate yourself and look at what you're doing. Maybe you need to pivot. Maybe you need to find some mentorship, some coaching so that you can aspire to get what you want, your dreams and aspirations in the current career or business that you're in. So I'm not saying it's not possible, but you might come to the conclusion after you put in some actual thought process and educate yourself and do some research that what you're doing isn't going to get you what you want. So then you need to look at changing, pivoting, right? Pushing the needle forward to go and aspire to do something that will get you what you aspire and what you have dreamt about maybe since you were a young kid. I know there was people in my life, I looked at what they were doing when I was in the IT consulting industry, and I looked at the ones that have been doing it for 5, 10, 15 years longer than me, and they were still grumpy, they were still miserable, they had health issues because of the amount of hours they worked, and were they getting more pay? Absolutely. Some of them were making a little bit more money, but they weren't making leaps and bounds and what's the word I'm looking for? They weren't really getting any closer to the things that they used to share to me that they wanted. And I remember back then talking to some of those people that were in the same consulting game as I was, and saying, what are you trying to achieve? And they'd tell me some of the things they were trying to achieve. I'd find out how long they were doing what they're doing. And I wouldn't necessarily bluntly ask them, but it was kind of obvious. The writing was on the wall. Another 10 years of doing the same thing and they'd be in the same place. They'd have contracts, they'd be making a 6-figure income, but they weren't really living their life on purpose. They were still on a hamster wheel. They were still trying to chase their tail. They weren't really growing and getting any bigger or any better. They had hit a plateau. They call that a glass ceiling. We have that a lot in life, whether we're in a job, whether we're an entrepreneur, self-employed, or whether we run a business. And part of it has to do with the fact that we've never been trained to understand how to level up and continue to grow and continue to expand our businesses or our ideas of what we want for a business if we're an aspiring entrepreneur. So bottom line, you need to ask yourself, people that are doing what I'm doing, right? So let's say you're in a job and you've always dreamt about having your own business, being self-employed and developing that into an entrepreneurship. Let's say that that's what you have always wanted to do, but in your job, the person doing your job is, been doing it for 15 years, for an example, and they're still, they're coming into work, they're going to work, go home, get paid, but they don't have the things that you want, the things that will make you happy, right? And, maybe that person had those dreams and aspirations. Go and talk to them. Do a little bit of investigative work and say, hey, John, hey, Bob, hey, Sally, hey, Sarah, you've been doing this how long? 15 years? What kind of trips do you go on? Like, maybe you know them well enough. You see what they drive as a vehicle, or you see what kind of house they're in. And again, I'm not saying this is what you're striving for is materialistic stuff, but many people that strive to do better, that strive to want more, it is based on materialistic things. They want a nicer house for their family. They want fancier trips. Maybe they want to be able to go on exotic vacations every year. Maybe they want that fancier car. If none of that is something that you aspire for, then this isn't the video for you. Maybe some other videos are. But this video is for those that are looking to aspire to get their dreams and aspirations. I want to have I want to give you a reality check, a giant reality check, because I've been there. And like I said, when I was in the IT industry before I pivoted and got into finance 18 years ago, I realized that if I really wanted to achieve more for my family and for myself, that it wasn't in the IT industry. Because I did talk to people that had been doing it longer. I seen that they weren't anywhere that farther in their lives than they were, 5, 10 years prior when they started in the industry. All they were was a lot older. They had, maybe their attitude was a lot worse. And again, some of you could prove me wrong, and maybe you can, just explode and do what others haven't done. But in most circumstances, when we look at others that are doing what we want to do or currently are doing for 5, 10, 15 years longer, if they haven't grown and they haven't gone outside of where you're currently at, what makes you think you're going to be any different? Well, in order to ensure that you could be different, one way to look at it is to find yourself a good coach, a good mentor that can possibly help you either tell you, yeah, you're on the right path, do this and do that, and 5 years from now, your life will be completely different. Or they'll outright tell you, you know what? The career, the job, the business that you're looking at is going to never get you what you want and what you're aspiring to have. So anyway, why do I talk to you about all this stuff? Because I give a heck, and I want you to learn to give a heck about your future and quit living on that hamster wheel and where you're chasing yourself, you're chasing your tail, and you just can't seem to get ahead, right? So sometimes it's about self-reflection. Sometimes it's about doing that reality check. And sometimes we can't do it for ourselves, and a coach or a mentor are the best way to do it. So I look forward to talking to you guys tomorrow. I hope you had a fantastic day, and again, I give a heck so that you can give a heck. God bless and peace out.